Hello, fellow Allis-Chalmers Tractor enthusiasts. This is Alex from A&W Tractor again. This time I am here with the Allis-Chalmers D10, and this is an early D10, not a Series 3. So we're going to do the general walk-around video, and I'll explain what you need to know about an Allis-Chalmers D10 if you've just bought one. So come along, and I will explain about lubrication points, fluid types and capacities, where to drain the fluids, where to add the fluids, how to fill them, and just general information about the tractor and the controls. So what I'll start with, and what every tractor owner should know, is where to find the serial number of the tractor and engine. So on the D10, the tractor serial number is located right on the torque tube flange right here. And the engine serial number is located on this tractor right next to it on the engine flange here. Whenever you need to order parts, usually you will need the serial number because there is serial number breaks on certain parts, especially on the D10s and 12 tractors. So we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll move on to the front of the tractor. Starting from front to back, the first fluid we come to is the radiator cooling system. So this cooling system holds approximately 2 gallons of coolant. It's filled through the radiator cap here, and the cooling system is drained at 2 different points. First drain is on the bottom radiator elbow. The second drain is behind the carburetor on the engine block. Very hard to see. There's a second drain petcock up there. If draining pure water out before winter, you definitely want to drain both the block and the radiator. So again, 2 gallons of coolant is the radiator capacity. Moving backwards a little bit here, the engine. So engine takes oil, of course. The drain for the engine oil is located at the bottom of the oil pan, right about here. And the fill point for the engine oil under the hood, on the top of the engine, right here. Take that breather off, fill the engine oil right there. So it holds approximately 4 quarts of engine oil. What I'd recommend for type of engine oil to use, if the engine is recently overhauled or is in overall excellent shape yet, 10W30 engine oil is good to use. On tired engines or engines that have not been overhauled in quite a while, I would recommend 15W40, and make sure you use the type diesel engine oil. The diesel engine oil contains particular additives to help lubricate certain parts in these older engines, particularly the camshaft and the camshaft followers. When you fill the engine with oil, or check the oil level, the dipstick is located here on the right hand side of the tractor. Make sure your engine oil stays in the operating range between full and low. Before starting the tractor every day, you definitely want to check the engine oil level to make sure you don't run into any problems while operating the tractor. So there's an external reservoir on the right hand side of the engine on this particular tractor, right here. Most times this reservoir holds the power steering oil. Now on this tractor, it runs the auxiliary hydraulics. The same reservoir, you want to use trans-hydraulic oil in there. The drain is located at the bottom right here. Takes a 1 1/8 inch wrench to remove, just like most other drain plugs on Allis-Chalmers tractors. To fill the reservoir, you simply remove this breather cap and fill till it's in the range on the dipstick. Right under the hood there, conveniently located. And these hoods, in a very astute decision by the engineers, are very quickly removed and attached with these latches on the side. That is one positive point about owning a D-Series Allis tractor, at least the ones that are not D21s. Hoods come right off very easily. So moving backwards from the engine, is the fuel tank. This fluid is gas tank, etc. If your gas tank is dirty, you can drain the old gas out by unscrewing the sediment bulb from the bottom of the fuel tank. The fill right here, gasoline, holds approximately 12 gallons of fuel. The sediment bowl should be also checked periodically. This screw on the bottom here allows you to remove the glass part of the sediment bowl to clean out any impurities in the fuel, such as rust bits, dirt, or water. All those contaminants are designed to settle to the bottom of the sediment bowl, and the gas flows out the top down to the carburetor. Very good design, very simple design. Works great if you keep attention to your fuel system. So underneath the gas tank, slightly back, is this steering gearbox here. You definitely want to check this once in a while, usually filled with grease, wheel bearing grease, or heavy gear oil such as 80, 90, or 140 weight. Behind the steering system is the transmission. Transmission and rear end differential are all in one housing on this tractor. The level is checked right here with the dipstick on the side. Keep the level in the operating range. The oil type to be used in the transmission, I would recommend transhydraulic oil, equivalent to Allis-Chalmers 821 power fluid. That was the spec from 1980s when these tractors were last made. There are 3 drain plugs on the transmission. When changing oil or flushing, you definitely want to remove all 3 so you get all the old liquid out. The front drain plug is located at the very front of the tractor, right in here. Right there, if you can make that out. It's accessible from the bottom here. You pretty much have to lay under the tractor to get that. Also takes a 1 1/8 inch wrench or socket to remove. The other 2 drain plugs are located and accessed from the rear of the tractor underneath. The drain plug below the differential is right here. And there's a drain plug on the PTO housing here. All 3 of those plugs, as I said, drain out the transmission oil. Make sure you drop all 3 plugs when changing or flushing. To fill the transmission, remove the dipstick there. That is also the fill port. Again, it's right here. And that holds approximately 11 quarts of the transhydraulic fluid. The last reservoirs on this tractor are perhaps the most overlooked on these Allis tractors. The drop axle pans don't get checked very regularly. On the outboard side of each axle, you have this bottom pan that contains lubrication oil for the gear reduction in the final drives. To change this oil, the pan must be dropped off of the axle. 10, 12 bolts hold it up there. Clean it all out, and then 80 W90 gear oil is what I'd recommend to put back in those final drive pans. You can either fill with oil when the pan is off and then bolt it back up, or you can fill with oil once the pan is bolted back up. This port here is the fill plug and the level plug. Both sides are the same pan. Screw that back in, and I believe that concludes the fluid part of this tractor. So again, lubrication points. Besides the steering gearbox there's various greaserts around the tractor. On this tractor there's 2 on the back lift here. 1 on each side, 1 there. And again on the other side of the lift rock shaft right here. There are brass bushings in here that do wear out, and they are available through us if you wish to replace yours. There's no other greaserts here on this tractor except on the front end. The steering system has a couple greaserts here on the end of the drag link tie rod, and then end of your cross tie rod here, and the spindle on each side also has a greasert right there. On the other side, here's the spindle greasert, and this side of the tie rod does not happen to have a greasert. There's nothing there, so it probably is factory original yet. The last lubrication point I would say on this tractor is the hubs, front hubs here. Now, they never came with greaserts from the factory, but it is very important to keep up on these wheel bearing hubs. To check or refill with grease, the hub must be removed from the spindle. This hubcap will unscrew. It's normal thread, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So unscrew that, disassemble the nuts and bearings inside. If it's bad grease, clean it out, and then fill it, pack it with fresh grease before installing the hub back onto the spindle. You also want to make sure that your wheel seal on the back side of the hub is in good shape before you put it all back together. Those do wear out, and you don't want to get contaminants working their way through the seal into your fresh grease. And I did forget about one other lubrication point. That would be the brake pedals. So under the foot plates there's a cross shaft that holds both brake pedals and clutch pedal. There's a greasert on the inner brake pedal for sure, possibly the clutch pedal. If there's no greaserts, I'd strongly recommend oiling that shaft, or at least spraying it down with penetrating oil. Keep it nice and lubricated. You want everything to move free and smooth. A lot easier on the operator when all your pedals are working. So this is a small tractor. There's not much to it. As far as lubrication and fluid types, I think I've covered that. I'm not going to cover any adjustments to any of the systems in these videos. That'll be a separate video series if we ever do that. So the last item I want to cover here is operator controls. You want to know how to operate the tractor if you just bought it. So starting around the operator platform seat here, you have several gauges and you have several levers. The fuel gauge is right here on the back of the tank. It's nice if you keep that in working order. It's easily visible from the operator's seat. This lever here is the throttle lever. I consider it to be backwards from most of the other tractors that we work on and drive here. All the way forward is actually idle on this tractor, and then to give it more throttle, just pull it back and down. When starting the tractor, I like to just crack the throttle lever about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch off of idle. That seems to be ideal. You don't want to start the tractor with the throttle wide open. That causes more harm than good, because the oil pump needs time to oil all of the parts of the engine that need lubrication. So you want to let it idle for 5-10 seconds before starting off and going to work or driving it. This is the key switch here. Should be in the factory location. You have straight up and down is off. Turn it one click and it's an on position. To crank the starter, you turn the key switch more to the spring position, and that will crank the starter over and start the tractor. This here is a little light that illuminates your dash panel at night if you need light. This here is the light switch. This particular switch is not the factory switch. It's been swapped out with a toggle switch. But in this location, you will find the light switch. This is your amp gauge here, amp meter. It shows the charging rate of the generator or alternator for the battery. This delete panel here, I believe, is the traction booster gauge spot. Not all tractors came with the traction booster, so this delete plate is installed. Make it look nice. Here's the temperature gauge that measures the temperature of the coolant in the engine. You don't want to let it get over to the right in the red range. That would be overheating. Running it in the red or overheating could cause catastrophic damage to the engine. The green range is ideal. This gauge here is the engine oil pressure. As you can see, it's clouded over, so we're going to recommend this gauge gets replaced to the customer. And then your fuse is right here. It installs but with a half turn like that, and powers all of your lights on the tractor. That way if something gets grounded out, instead of wires shorting and burning up, it will blow the fuse. So definitely keep your fuse holder intact and wired into the circuit. This is your gear shift lever under the steering wheel. Shift pattern is usually stamped onto this panel here. Has 4 forward speeds, 1 reverse speed. Some tractors had the option of a high-low range shifter. This tractor does not have that option. If it did, it would be located right here on the left side of the torque tube. You'd have a lever to shift from high to low. The industrial versions of this tractor sometimes had a forward reverse lever in the same position as the high-low, but obviously instead of the high-low range, you would have forward and reverse speeds. To shift that reverse forward or high-low shifter and the transmission gears, you must first press in the clutch pedal. Clutch pedal is located to the left here. You operate it with your left foot. Must be disengaged to shift any gears. And then to start moving in any gear, release the clutch pedal, bring your foot back up, and you should take off if everything's working correctly. There's the PTO on this tractor that is not independent or live. You must press the clutch pedal down to engage the PTO. And the PTO engagement lever is located behind the operator seat on the right side, right here. That's the PTO engagement lever. And again, this is an early D10. The later D10s had a different PTO system, so this is only for the early D10s. A couple other levers here on the left side of the tractor. Your choke lever, or choke rod right here, located right behind the instrument panel. All the way forward is the choke off position, all the way back is full choke. This lever here to the left under the operator seat is the snap coupler release lever. These tractors from Allis had their own snap coupler system before they had a 3-point as an option. This lever here releases the hook under the tractor to hook up to or release snap coupler mounted implements. And then lastly, I believe, is the steering wheel here. Most people know what this is. Turn the top to the left to steer left. Turn the top of the steering wheel to the right to steer the tractor right when going forward. Well, I think that just about covers it here. Nothing else I can think of here that comes to mind other than these tractors. Very small, very collectible. This particular tractor has a mounted cultivator, which I've never seen in person before for this D10 model. And one other thing here needs attention. The air cleaner. This is an oil bath type air cleaner. The bottom cup right here must be filled with engine oil to allow this air cleaner to function properly. So usually about once a week I would recommend checking this air cleaner cup, unscrewing the latch here, dropping the cup off, dumping out the contaminated oil that's in there if it's dirty. Make sure the level of the oil stays at this little bevel rib, and reinstalling it before you operate your tractor. So that about concludes the video on this D10 tractor. So again, this is Alex from A&W Tractor, and if you guys ever need parts or service, be sure to keep us in mind. A&W Tractor, 920-598-1287, and on the web we are www.awtractor.com. So if you feel inclined to patronize us, please go ahead. Our service department is always eager and willing to work on any rebuilds or repairs on these Allis tractors. So again, have a nice day and happy tractoring.